You know, when we speak about sustainable development in education, we find that earlier Britishers built this tower. Rajabai Tower was the highest tower in city of Mumbai. But later what happened, in last 40, 50 years, you find the other towers are rising. So academic tower has gone down and other towers are rising. So what is it? There are people who say that if you want to understand the consciousness of the society, you understand from art and culture. So this will come out and it gives you variety of things on that. Now let us calm down. I will give you question answer session also, because I would love to interact with you. I will give you that how did community comes into the picture, and we create community resilience, and we have seen in this pandemic. Okay, one example I will give you of another when the Mumbai attack took place. When Mumbai attack took place, the Pakistani terrorists came in Mumbai and they entered into the Taj Mahal hotel. And in this Taj Mahal hotel, they entered and they created, which you have seen on the television and everything. There was a researcher in Harvard. His name was Professor Rohit Deshpande, and they did some research work. Why did this happen, and how did this happen? How did people save so many lives? What was the whole thing? And they came across that in Taj Mahal Hotel, the people were saved. And who saved the people? It is the employees which saved it. They remained there. 17 of them got killed. This, and these were all young boys and girls. Young boys and girls who died. They were hardly in 20s and 30. You see the video or DVD video of this talk, YouTube talk, you will get it. And interesting was that they come from ordinary family. They were ordinary people and they did this work, including their general manager. His own wife died, his own son died, and his own daughter died. Three people of his family, when this news came in that they are killed upstairs, he said that I will go later. I will see, I am on a battlefield. I will do the grief later. Now, all this behavior which was happening there, psychologists were interested in studying why did this happen, because literature shows when there is a flight and flee, this is a response which Cannon and all other psychologists have said people in a natural scenario will run away. And he did the same study in America. If the scenario would have been done, what would have been done? In a class, who except 1%, rest others said we will run away. Now, why did this happen? So they went and they came down to the cultural factor. And they found out that I'm giving a summary of this. You can read the whole thing in that. It will be interesting for researchers who are interested in engaging with this behavior. Atiti Devo Bhavo. Huh? This is our cultural. Huh? This is a psyche which is there. Culture is built through three main areas. Huh? And in Taj, culture is built from selection. Average student selected from rural area based on their attitudes. Now remember, problem in our society is that the whole selection process is going on intelligence, that is at the top level. The societies are also run on bottom level. And the biggest problem in a society when you go with achievement orientation, ambitiousness, generally I use this word, ambitiousness is myth and success is vulgar. They create ambitiousness and they create so much of achievement, many unethical things happen Isn't it means that collective ambitiousness cannot be there? But here they have proved that in this. And secondly, training, that you are the ambassadors of guest. That thought they inculcated. And recognition, you gave recognition to their behavior. So these three factors were there. And significance of this culture was recognized, for example, in 2611, 3 nights and 2 days guests terrorized, shot, 500 guests registered at the hotel, another 600 guests attending function banquet. So many people were there. None of the staff members ran away to save their own lives. Instead, some staff members helped some guests to escape, then came back to help more guests. Out of 1,700 people at the hotel, 34 people died, out of which exactly half, 17, were staff members. Now you see this cultural resilience and community resilience is the best example you get from here. And many of the time you don't find this kind of things which are there in the, so you will have to inculcate at both levels, selection, training level. So what it means is all this plays a very important factor. Let us go with a few more things, which 4 5 slides are there. Then if we want to build a behavior which is sustainable behavior or development towards sustainability, we have to work at 2 levels. One is at the attitude level, because attitude determines your behavior. If you want to change the behavior, you have to inculcate this concept of attitude. Okay, just respect. Now, this concept is very important. Respect towards self, respect towards other, and respect towards. Now, you will have to develop this respect towards nature also, towards the environment also. And this has to be right translated from school level. How do you train them? How do you train towards nature? Because we want to create a sustainable behavior and pro-sustainable behavior. The direct link is with your attitudes. And attitude determines your behavior. You have to inculcate positive attitude. Positive attitude means you have to inculcate respect. And there are a lot of stories are there. You can use the content which is required. That is one. Second, which is very important, is genuineness. Now here you require people like Gandhi. People teach Gandhi. People tell that become like Gandhi, honesty. Generally, I say that you are teaching half a lesson. Gandhi spoke about honesty. Yeah, you have to be honest. But Gandhi also gave one example of his life. If you are honest, be prepared to face the consequences also. Parents teach honesty, but they go and then they do walk honesty ka karo, talk honesty ka karo, walk or kuch karo. So society is facing from a schizophrenia. The schizophrenia means the discrepancy, walking something else and talking something else. So genuineness has to be built in not only to the individual but to the environment. Concreteness, empathy, and self-disclosure. Other are there. Concrete means you have to be specific. You don't have to create so many things. Empathy means put yourself. What will happen to the nature and environment? Do a lot of things. Change. Do activities, and it should be taken at the agenda. Otherwise, next 10 years we are going to face bigger crisis. And certain skills will have to be developed, though this is a counseling skills, but you can be putting it into the whole environment scenario, and you can develop some attending, responding, personalizing, initiating, and evaluating, and mixing together and taking towards the nature. Now, some examples I will give you of social milieu, what happened during this pandemic. There is one psychologist by the name of B.N. Mukherjee. He was in Calcutta, and though he started his career from Nagpur, he said that psychology has to go to native if it has to be creative and relevant to the society. The wisdom which has prevailed in our native literature, I'm speaking native literature. Huh? It is not like that because nobody has explored those literature. It gives you a lot of ideas, and your theorizing should be based on the native literature. So you get one factor which is called as social norms and beliefs. There are so many social norms which are there and so many belief systems which society has, tribal society has. And even the rural society has, even your culturally which is there. And this creates this whole inclusion and exclusion groupism. In-group and out-group. If you take from that literature and integrate with your sustainable development and pro-sustainable behavior, you can create a lot of things. And one of this literature which has been created, and one community which always comes forward, is community participation and involvement. During pandemic, we know the concept of langar. Okay, this langar of Sikh. Visit, anyone can go to the Gurdwara. If lunch is being served, they put it on the downstairs. Raja ho ya bhikari ho, all will sit in the same line. Okay, there is nothing. And they will serve you free food and everything. Fine. People donate, people do a lot of things. This concept of seva, which is there, it is going to come in our one of our issue. Seva. Now, this is a seva concept is an Indian context, and it is there in the Indian psyche. Can we explore this seva, which is called as service? In English word, it is called service, reaching out to the people. And they moved it from langar seva to oxygen cylinder langar seva. On the one hand, hospitals were charging, doctors were charging. On the other hand, people are supplying oxygen. Two contradictory world we are seeing in Indian context. And that is appreciable. And they didn't saw religion, they didn't saw any aspect of it. Now, what has happened? This community, what it did is, and it is applied to every community. Huh? It is not like that you have this concept in that community. But the saddest part was that these concepts got suppressed, and the concept of materialism and individualism, and this was foreign, and they brought it and they highlighted in the society, and which is creating what you call as a sickness of the whole society. So oxygen langar, which they gave it, and even they gave free staying, free all those things. It was unique. And there are many people who come in from different faiths and different religions, and they came in and they got it, which was there. So this is very important, where communities got involved into it, and this found that the solutions can come in. And similarly, if this gets interlinked with pro-sustainable issue, that will be very good. I think her topic is Dharavi model. We were thinking. She's a psychology. I think that she's doing in Dharavi, or her friend is doing. I could not make this thing. But this Dharavi model, you see, Delhi model, these two models. Dharavi model, you see community mental health participation in COVID-19 pandemic. Now, Dharavi model became very famous. Why did it become famous? People from a lower community, they came together to do community healing. Now, there is a concept of community healing through pandemic. Can community comes together and resolve the pandemic? And that was the best example. The tracing, tracking, and controlling was best done, and Mumbai model became very popular. And Mumbai controlled it. It was first affected I think the slums got affected first, and slums were it got resolved, or it might have got affected last, because some people from abroad brought in, but they could resolve this. Now we are trying to work it on in a study, that if we take three groups, that is high people who stay in a tower, and people who stay in middle class, and people who stay in Saint Kolivada or Dharavi, and find it out the pandemic and urbanization, what strategies they applied in resolving it. So if you take tower, they became much more of private self. And here when you come, community comes and resolve the problem. Did the healing happen because community came together to solve the problem? The unity was very high, or what it is. So these concepts which you get it in an Indian context are very, very essential. One example or two examples of this we can get it. Similarly, the Mohalla Clinic, the Mohalla Clinic concept which came in the Delhi, and the public school involvement, and many of the time you find that public schools are getting involved and Mohalla clinics are coming together. It is a wonderful examples of everything, because public, see, when you talk about private institution, it becomes individualistic. And you cannot solve a problem like pandemic, because that becomes individualistic. And if I am okay, that is better. And that is why the critic came, that people were low affected. They can do home quarantine. They rush to the hospital and book the bed. I won't name the person. In Mumbai, it happened. People from the elite class, they didn't need hospitalization. Now the hospitalization bed is required to be done to others. And they are big people. They come on television every day, give gals to other people. There is no critique of them. Asking them, at least see your face in the mirror and ask this question. You need the bread, or home quarantine people are there, and there are people who need beds. So this whole conflict came of individual, I, me and mine. Mera acha ho jana mangta hai, dusra baad mein gaya. Now this thinking is getting affected, and in next 10 years, you will see that this is going to increase more and more. And we are playing with the nature and playing with the environment. Okay, just to conclude it, implementing and change, you will have to have these three things very, very. Concept of home quarantine became very. So we will have to build upon these local knowledges in order to resolve our own problems, because it is more economically friendly also, because being a country, you don't require ideas which are so fancy and everything, but you can resolve many of these solutions which you can get and build your own resiliences. Community network and ideology plays an important part in resilience. Huh? Now, this is very important. You have to move community network, which has to be developed based on ideology also. In one place you go, Ganpati festival comes, definitely yes, because that community is there, that ideology is there, you take it up, not to get. So maybe we can work it, because the Indian mind is a spiritual mind. Indian mind is because you will have to enter inside in order to be there. And definitely, yes, in this spirituality also, there is a rationality which is prevailing. Huh? It is not that it is irrational, depending on all faiths and everything, but the interpretation happens and misused. So many of the time, we will have to merge with them in order to bring about that change. And local knowledge system can be used for empowerment. Actually, there is a huge amount of knowledge which is at a local level. It is not that we have to take it in a foreign language. Last but not the least, this I has to be replaced by we. Okay, just illness. We talk illness only of individual. I talk illness of the society also, because society has become ill many of the time. So we have to build social wellness. So micro unit of analysis should not be there. It has to be macro. And in this macro, all social sciences requires to come together. It is not only one or two and create a hierarchy. Now, that is which is a critic of this whole, because economic cannot solve your other social or human problem. Huh? Because economics, generally this critic of to the economics should also be there, because what is happening when they are in policy making, yeah, they should see that you don't overboard your things, because you feel that human being is an economic driven human being. No, human being is also socially driven human being. Human being also is a psychologically driven human being. Human being is also a philosophy driven human being. Human being is also political driven behavior. That is why the whole humanity should be there. If a discussion on a certain aspect has to be taken, that is why we find that many of the time the policies gets loopholed. It is only one of our colleague or one of our friend who feels that he is great than the other, so that aura should be removed, and all social sciences should be given equal opportunity in the whole, because the crisis belongs to everybody of us. Okay, last, thank you very much.